Hello, welcome to Life Sciences with Matrix Uploaded. I'm Helen, and today we're going to pick up where we left off last week, looking at these two enormously important processes of cell division. Now, in grade 10, you've encountered mitosis, the kind of cell division that happens in all of your body cells. As you're sitting there right now, I don't know if you can close your eyes and feel it. You're growing bigger, you're repairing yourself, you're replacing cells that have been damaged. Of course you can't feel it. It's something that is happening naturally in your body all the time. Mitosis is probably taking place in over 1 billion cells in your body as we speak. Now, if it's taking place so often in your body, it stands to reason that mistakes may happen. And what we're going to focus on today is what can go wrong with cell division. Not only with mitosis, but later in the program, we'll look at what can go wrong with meiosis in terms of the production of gametes or sex cells. So we're focusing on mitosis and the errors that could happen, and a lot of you are doing that right now in grade 10. And then later on, we'll focus on the grade 12 work, what happens when cell division is faulty in producing gametes. So most of your cells, if you think about it, have different lifespans. Not all the cells last for a very specific length of time. It all depends on what cell type it is. So those lining your esophagus, or where your food goes down, they only live about 2 days because they're in a heavy duty passage where food is going past them all the time. Whilst there are some kinds of white blood cells that can live for up to 20 years, and then they'll only be replaced. And of course, mature nerve cells never divide, which makes it so tragic when you are involved in an accident and your spinal cord, for example, breaks. Those cells can't divide and can't be replaced. I got this little cut on my finger when I was a little girl, and those nerve cells were obviously damaged that I can't feel the end of my finger. Very sadly, people who take drugs create huge black holes in their brain because various kinds of drugs like weed and cocaine, cat, tick, what these drugs do is they kill nerve cells, or they make the cells not able to function properly, and you don't replace those cells. So even one day, if you've decided that you've experimented in your youth and now you're a recovering addict, or you're just not going to take drugs anymore, you've done the damage, and your nerve cells actually cannot be replenished or repaired or replaced. So we need to understand that different cells in our body are undergoing mitosis at different rates. The regulation, what controls all of this, is a critical process in the human body. And I'm sure by now you know what molecule controls cell division and the rate at which cell division takes place. Of course, it's all controlled ultimately by DNA, which produces certain enzymes, which are proteins that regulate or control metabolic processes. And though that cell cycle, what starts the cell cycle? It's triggered by enzymes. What puts a stop at a certain place? Enzymes once again. You've seen this slide quite often, the cell cycle, that normal metabolic processes take place in interphase, and then a small percentage of the cell's life is involved with replication. And the cells are actually programmed to divide when they've reached a critical size and they have sufficient nutrients. So the cell is born, if you like, at the end of mitosis. It's formed, and it has to grow to a certain size before it's going to undergo cell division. Now, there are checkpoints in the cell cycle that send stop and start signals or go-ahead signals to the DNA to instruct it whether to start DNA replication or not. So as the cell is in interphase, as it gets to this critical point here, signals will be sent to the DNA. Cell has reached critical size, sufficient nutrients on hand, enter DNA replication. Now, you know that if you've cut yourself or if you've injured yourself in some way, those sides of the wound are parted and very soon they've knitted together again. And it seems to be that that kind of injury triggers cell division. Normally, cell division would be continuing at a very normal pace at your fingertip. But if you've cut your finger, cell division rapidly takes over and it undergoes rapid mitosis to actually close the gap in the wound. And interestingly, as soon as the edges of the wound touch, cell division stops. So it's very, very clear that cells respond to some kind of inhibition when they cluster together, when they're touching together, then they know, or then they get triggered to stop cell division. So what happens when those trigger signals don't work? What happens when the cells don't react to their normal control processes that would normally say, stop dividing, you're overcrowded, there's no reason to divide, you're not at critical size yet? And a process that falls apart and cannot actually function properly is going to end up with a tumor or with a cancerous growth developing. After the break, we'll continue looking at this process.